Welcome to Mastering Life's Adventures, an educational podcast about tapping into your true self, the soul, the substance of your life, to discover what life's ups and downs are really about, and how to have a greater sense of purpose, peace, joy, and fulfillment. I am Dr. Judith Holder, your host, coach, psychologist, fellow seeker who enjoys diving into the connections between spirituality, psychology, wellness, and your everyday life's adventures. All preparing and polishing you like the facets of a magnificent diamond to be your best self. If you're craving more from your life, you are in the right place. Come, let's journey together and transforming what you know into who you really are. Mastering Life's Adventures begins now.
Hi, welcome back to another episode looking at simple keys to soul progress. And what we're going to be talking about today is embracing imperfection. But embracing imperfection can be painful at times, wouldn't you say? But it can also have a profound impact upon your soul. So we're going to explore your embracing certain types of imperfections that we know can be difficult and challenging at times. It can be downright painful. And that's why I developed an acronym of P.A.I.N and what P.A.I.N means as we're looking to move forward with embracing our imperfections. Also, paradoxically, it also is the very thing that frees our soul and allows us to experience true growth. So this acronym of P.A.I.N we'll be talking about today and break it down and why imperfection feels so challenging and yet why it is so crucial to your spiritual and personal evolution. So the P stands for pride. Why it's painful? Think about pride. Because it's a defense mechanism. Pride is often a defense mechanism. And when we feel that our worth is tied to being perfect, it becomes very difficult to embrace anything less. Our pride can make us afraid to show up authentically because we fear that imperfection will make us seem weak, unworthy, inadequate. So letting go of this armor feels vulnerable. Pride is like an armor that we place on ourselves, like in the ancient days and the world's Sir Lancelot and the court of Arthur, King Arthur. They all had armor. And the armor I'm talking about is pride. And it becomes the armor that allows us not only not to feel vulnerable, but it makes us feel tough, that we can withstand anything and that comes our way. For those of us who want to be seen as competent and in control, then we use that armor of pride. Let me tell you a story. I know a person, and let's call her Sarah. And Sarah was one of the most talented people I know. She can paint beautiful landscapes and portraits, you name it. She could be able to do it. But for years, she wouldn't show anyone her art, her work, her pieces. Every time she created a piece, she kept it hidden. She would put it away in the basement and accumulate it in the attic because she was afraid that it wasn't, quote unquote, good enough, or that people would judge her or judge her style or be critical of her. Her pride kept her locked in the cycle of perfectionism, of believing that if I get it perfect, then they can't say too much to me. They can't do anything to me. They can't hurt me. Get back to that vulnerability piece, having the armor of pride. She wanted to create this perfect piece. But this drove her to being really self-critical instead of being creative and allowing the creative juices to flow in the ways that it needs. And that's the gift of the Holy Spirit. And when we have it with us, it just flows. And so it's not worried about being perfect. It's more being in the flow of things. So one day, Sarah decided to display her work at an art show. She got up the gumption, she got up the courage and just said, okay, I'm just going to do it. I've got all these pieces in my basement and in my attic. I'm just going to go ahead and do it. Even the imperfect pieces she included in the art gallery display. The pieces weren't finished to perfection. She just got tired of trying to work on this perfect piece that never became perfect. And there were parts that she was showing in her exhibit that were not all the way finished as she originally wanted them to be or envisioned them to be, because artists have this vision about how they want things to be and they try to create it in that manner. And so I understand that. And for Sarah, this was part of her issue that was going on. But guess what? When the crowd saw the different pieces, they fell in love with them. They connected to the rawness, the vulnerability of the unfinished strokes. And in fact, Sarah's imperfection in those pieces, she saw now from a different vantage point through the eyes of those who were viewing her art and was fascinated by it because she thought she needed to be perfect. But in fact, the pieces that she displayed for exhibit were imperfect and the very thing that made them resonate so deeply with those that were viewing it. Her artwork. What she came to realize is that by embracing her flaws and stepping out of her own way, her own self-kind of criticism, condemnation, and judgment, which I've talked about in the previous episode, which I'll put the link down below, she discovered that true connection with others happens not through perfection, but through honesty. So the lesson for the soul, and that her soul was learning, and we all can learn, is that the soul isn't seeking perfection. It is seeking authenticity and humility. Doesn't mean that we're not going to have some ups and downs and some painful points, but that's okay. But we think it's the outer personality, which we call the persona, that's more likely to seek this issue around perfection. But the soul, that's not what it needs. When you let go of pride and allow others to see your imperfection, and what they were seeing is her imperfection, we stop hiding and start truly living. Imperfection is where we find connection. Like that? Imperfection is where we find connection. It is these raw, authentic moments that are deeply strengthening and emerging for the soul. That's the P. So what's the A? The A is anxiety. Why is anxiety so painful? Well, anxiety often surfaces when we're afraid that imperfection will be judged. The fear of rejection, failure, or ridicule can become very devastating for you internally, how you're feeling, and that's why you feel angst or anxious. So any mistake can feel catastrophic. And perfectionism feeds this anxiety. And we have to realize when we're going to have anxiety, but we're not trying to be perfect all the time, to just know that anxiety and perfection do come along, but how do we let it go? How do we move out of the belief that we have to be perfect, which means we don't need to make any mistakes? Or where our fear is that we'll be fraudulent or we'll be seen as unworthy in some ways in a relationship that we may have with someone, for example. So let's take James. It's another example I wanted to give. And I got examples for each of these pain points that we can have. And so we're on A in terms of anxiety. And so he's very talented, James, public speaking wise. But every time he had to give a speech, he battled with debilitating anxiety. And every time that he had to give a speech, which he did very well, but just before the speech, he battled with anxiety, just feeling anxious. When you get that tightness in your stomach, you feel that you want to sometimes throw up because it's so anxiety-producing to give. Even though he would rehearse for hours, sometimes days before any presentation that he would give, even a slight stutter or misstep in his speech would throw him off. He would just get anxious and get annoyed at himself. And he'd feel like the entire room was judging him. And as I said earlier, even though he's a talented speaker. Then one day, during a keynote presentation, he stumbled over a word, a huge word. And for a split second, he froze. His mind was racing. Oh no, what am I going to do? Everyone heard that. Oh no. I'll look like an idiot, And then, in that moment of panic, he did something he had never done before. He laughed. He laughed at it. And he simply smiled and said, okay, let's try that one more time. Let's try that again. And to his surprise, the audience laughed with him. They appreciated his honesty and his ability to laugh at himself. So what did James realize? That he needed to embrace his imperfections. Through that, he had less anxiety. He didn't have to control his anxiety. He could go with the flow. And he came to realize that he stood there, and as he stood there, he was being authentic. And in that moment, the audience connected with him far more than delivering a perfect, flawless speech. He was embracing the now and realizing in that process and embracing the now, he was embracing his anxiety, because anxiety tends to thrive when we try to control everything. And the soul, however, thrives when we learn to let go and trust. Let go and trust. The fear of imperfection creates anxiety. We don't think about that. But embracing imperfection leads to peace. And that's what the soul thrives in. It needs to be peaceful. Life is full of unpredictable moments. And when we stop striving for control and perfection, we can experience peace and ease in every situation. So think about this. How, when you feel anxious, to tell yourself or ask yourself, what do I need to embrace here? And be more authentic with myself and with others. So that's the A. Now, you might be thinking, what's the I then? The I is insecurity. Insecurity comes from the belief that our flaws makes us in some ways unworthy or worthless. We fear that people will judge us for being less than in some ways. And our flaws feels like the assault on our value that we may have, whatever those values are. Think about that. We have a value that we want to be happy or kind or considerate, or we want to make sure people are at ease with us in some ways. But we might hide or cover up our imperfections to avoid being seen as less than perfect So I have another story for you to give you an example of that. And this is related to Rachel, who attended a personal growth workshop, which we all have attended at some point in time. I've attended them as well. And so Rachel was brilliant. She carried a lot of insecurity about her appearance, though, and how other people perceived her. She would make comments on her flaws, about her skin, her hair, her height, in the conversations or in the meetings, when you had those small group breakout types of meetings. I mean, you come back to the bigger meeting and talk about what you learned about yourselves from the discussions. However, she wasn't comfortable in her own skin, and she always felt like she wasn't good enough, which I have another episode talking about good enough if you want to listen to that in the comment section below as well. Then one day, as she was talking about her vulnerability, a person asked her what her most significant imperfection was in this personal growth workshop that she was attending. She shared how she hated her freckles. They were something she had always been self-conscious about. And then as she talked about that and shared that, she said, you know what? I need to get over this. I'm 20-something, moving into 30-something. And she decided to step out of her comfort zone and post a picture and a photo on social media without any filter to showcase her natural face, freckles and all. You know what? To her surprise, the response was overwhelmingly positive. People loved her authentic and real how she looked in the photo. This helped her confidence. So rather than feeling vulnerable, she started to become more confident in how she looked, in her appearance. And she learned that people are attracted to different things. And there are some people that really overwhelmingly liked her picture and shared that with her. And what she learned about herself was that she could embrace her insecurities. She could begin to live and be comfortable with her natural beauty. And we all need to learn that. There's some natural things that are about ourselves that we are taking very critically. But other people may look at it and say, I don't see the criticism there. Why are you feeling that way? You look great. And they really genuinely believe that and saying that to you. So what's the soul lesson here? Insecurity holds us back from our own true potential. But when we embrace our imperfections, our unique qualities about us that have been given to us by God, our Creator, our I Am Presence, our Atman, we find that we see as flaws are often the very things that makes us special. And we are all unique. We all are special. But when we want to deny those qualities that are making us special, then we become common. And we don't want to become common. Our road is the road of special, being special. And that's the soul's road. Each soul is special. When we stop hiding, we often find that we open ourselves to the possibilities for a greater authentic connection with ourselves, with others, and more importantly, in the interactions that we have with other people. We find ourselves being more centered, balanced, calm, and not feeling as if we have to fake something because that particular unique quality that we have is causing us some type of pain in how we look, or how we speak, or how we go about doing things. And so I'm not saying that we can't always improve on ourselves. We can always make a difference in the interactions that we do have. That's evolving, but our base point or settling point should be, I accept myself as I am, and I'm willing to continue to grow and change and evolve. So the next one that I want to talk about in this pain is the need for control. The need for control. We often think that if we can control everything, we can avoid imperfection, right? But the need for control creates a prison of anxiety and frustration because life doesn't work on those terms. We can't control everything. And the more that we try to control our outcomes and the things that happen in our worlds, the more we set ourselves up for maybe disappointments, irritations, frustrations. When things don't go our way, it sets us up ultimately for pain. Because we're trying to control where maybe we are not able to control anything. So here's another story about a wedding. And let's use the name Veronica. Her sister was the planner of Veronica's wedding, and everything had to be perfect. Meticulously planning of the details, the venue, the food, the music, the dress. They needed to control everything. The sister, on that big day, it started to rain. The outdoor ceremony was supposed to be held in a beautiful garden, but the weather had different plans. At the time, Veronica was devastated. She thought her sister did a great job with planning everything, but you can't factor in and you can't control the weather. It didn't say it was going to rain on that day, but it just happened to rain. So Veronica was devastated. As she and her sister spent the months, because it takes months planning for every little thing, it felt like at that moment when it started raining, everything fell apart. But then she realized everything was, other than the rain, everything was lovely. In that moment, she was able to let go the need to control the situation. And when she did that, something magically happened. She and her husband-to-be decided to move the ceremony inside. They did have a contingency plan. And it turned out to be a most intimate celebration. And in fact, the rain added an unexpected charm to the day. The guests were more relaxed, the atmosphere was cozy, and the couple ended up having an unforgettable experience. Something that she would have never known if she had not let go of the desire of wanting everything to be perfect, to be in control. So, the soul is not concerned with perfection or control. It's concerned with trust. Life is full of unexpected twists and turns, and when we let go of the need to control every aspect, every outcome, all the results, and let things flow a little bit more, or a better way of saying it, when we open ourselves up to spontaneity and the beauty that comes with embracing the unpredictable, our true growth happens when we surrender the need for control and flow with the currents of life. That's what the soul wants. How can we let go of the need to control everything and move into knowing that God may have a twinkle of mirth to give us something unexpectedly for us to continue to grow and advance our soul on our soul's path, and allowing us to unite with something higher within ourselves, taking the higher road, as you have heard me talk about, taking the high road and not the low road in terms of the emotionality or in terms of the issues around control or the issues around wanting it our way and only our way. When we let go of those things, we are truly moving in a different direction and allowing our soul to learn the lessons that it needs to learn. The biggest takeaway is to embrace your imperfections, knowing that pain is gain, knowing that pain may transform us in particular ways, and that our imperfections are helping and guiding us in particular ways as well. So to let go of the need for perfection in your pride, anxiety, insecurity, and the need for control, it's through our imperfections that we connect, that we grow, and that we experience life more fully. Perfection might seem like the goal, but true freedom and joy are found in embracing what makes us human and allows our soul to continue to grow. Your imperfections don't define you. They set you free. My mother used to say, we're in the process of setting our soul free from the encumbrances of our thoughts, feelings, negative emotions that weigh us down, doesn't allow us to be able to have grace and also to continue to learn in ways that life will bring our way. It's realizing that imperfections don't define you. They set you free. Imperfections are like a diamond in the rough that you're learning to buff up certain facets of yourself that allow you to shine even brighter and more glorious and allowing the soul to continue to flourish. Something to think about. Bye for now. And let me know your thoughts too. I invite you to, write down or let me know how imperfections, how allowed you to grow. Share your thoughts. Take care. Bye for now.
Thank you for joining me for this episode on Mastering Life's Adventures, being your best self through soul evolution. If you have enjoyed what you've heard today, I would be delighted if you would share this episode with others, leave a thumbs up, and subscribe to my Mastering Life's Adventures podcast. Look forward to your joining the next episode. Please leave any comments or suggestions you might have below. Bye for now.